probably man that's got the same move with every club. I'm the only golfer with the feeling of greatness. I'm the only golfer living that's got the master move and the feeling of greatness.
In a business, that's what you do. When you start a business, you do it yourself. I heard a guy refer to being an entrepreneur as being an entrepreneur is like jumping off a cliff and then trying to build an airplane on the way down. And it's exactly what it is.
Love that. It's really good.
It's exactly what it is, right?
That's really good.
It's really good. And so, and that's what life feels like to me a lot of times is, man, you jump off and you got to build shit on the way down. Well, grabbing a pilot on the way down and grabbing a guy who knows how to build an airplane on the way down is going to get it done a lot faster, right?
Yeah. But here's where I think so many people struggle is that a lot of people are, in fact, afraid of asking for help. That it will make them look weak.
That's it. That's it.
Especially for males. I've done, as you know, Todd, I've been involved in a group called the Mankind Project for over 20 years. And I witness this all the time. We have these weekends that are called New Warrior Training Adventure Weekends. And guys come in to these weekends and there's the odd guy who he says, I wish I came here 10 years ago because I've lost my family or I've lost my business or whatever. It's not till a crisis point that he's got nothing to lose. You've heard alcoholics, other addicts say, when they hit rock bottom, that's when things change. Well, you don't want to hit rock bottom. We really don't. But it's getting over that resistance to ask for help that again. So I wrote a blog this week it's on my Substack about resistance. And most of us are resistant to any kind of change. There's parts of us that want to stay the same. We don't want to rock the boat. We feel okay where we're at, but we know that what we're doing isn't working. We're 30 pounds overweight. We're engaging in behaviors with our partners that we don't like. We're not proving our golf game, but there's something that's holding. Now, for some people in their family of origin, to ask for help was being weak. And it's unfortunate that people have these beliefs and these stories about themselves. But it's when we step over that line of resistance and say, ask for help, man, it's amazing how the world gets better and easier.
Well, I was listening to this podcast. I don't remember who it was. And maybe it was a podcast or maybe it was a buddy of mine I was talking to. And he said that, believe it or not, people want to be asked to help.
Oh yeah, totally.
You know, like if friends of mine find that I'm struggling and they're like, why aren't you calling me? Why aren't you asking?
Exactly.
Right. And it's interesting because we grow up and I know I did in a family where you didn't want to be vulnerable. You felt like you were weak if you asked for help. You felt like
it's the male archetype.
It's what the F? Why?
Exactly.
Why? Where did that come from? Is it just is it genetic? Is it part of our, what is that?
I'll be as brief as I can.
Yeah.
In centuries ago, men were very emotional, often and generally more so than women. If you watch period histories, you often see these sort of twittery men talking away and all this kind of stuff. Men are generally very emotional. And often what you'll find is that, I know when I've had, very frank conversations with Sandy, my better half, I'm more emotional than she is. She can deal with stuff better than I can because she's not afraid of her emotions. I'm scared shitless of my emotions, and most guys are. So a very quick history lesson. In the 20th century, when we had World War I, World War II, Korean War, Vietnam War, all this kind of stuff, there's no time for guys to be feeling, I'm feeling bad. No, you had to go to war and toughen up, then later deal with your shit. So that's a model that's been put forward for us. Marlboro Man, John Wayne, Steve McQueen movies, right? That's the model. That's the hard man who goes off into the sunset, handles shit on his own. He's big and strong. that model, I mean, it's a cliche, but that's really a model of toxic masculinity.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really unfortunate. I still think with, and I think we just see it in our culture more and more now. It really bothers me that there's these guys out there who are putting, particularly to young men and to adolescents, teenagers, this model of grab what you can, be strong, don't show any weakness because that's pussy shit. That really saddens me.
This is the Andrew Tates, and the
Exactly.
yeah,
Thank
and
you.
the what about Jordan Peterson? How do you feel about Jordan?
For a while, I really liked him, to speak personally, and then he just went more and more right, and to the point where his politics, what he was mixing with what he was saying, I just stopped listening. But there's a lot of I do know that there's a lot of good stuff that he's very accomplished academic, and he's got a number of different assessments and things that people can do. But now he just kind of went. I got to admit, maybe people who are listening can already tell I'm probably center left in sort of my political views and whatnot.
Yeah.
But
It's so funny. I'm a fan of Andrew Tate. I'm a fan of Jordan Peterson. Not 100%, but let's call it 80%. What I find interesting is this. I think, and may sound a little weird, but I think we're responsible for everything.
Absolutely.
I think the key is responsibility. And so it's like there's no excuses here. I'm responsible for what I've done, but my problems, my failures, my successes, I'm just responsible for it all. And I think that taking responsibility is a big part of owning it, because then you can realize I'm also going to own the changes and the transformation that I'm trying to make as well. I'm going to own that as well. I was watching a deal the other day, and it was this 60-year-old guy, and he's talking about turning 60, and I'm going to turn 60 in 2 years. Tim, how old are you? 60.
67. I'm well into my seventh decade.
Wow. You look young. But
thank you.
But he goes, when you turn 60, here's the first thing you realize: no one's coming to save you. And I'm like, shit. Because look, your parents are probably gone. You're just, man, it's you, right? And so there's two ways I look at that. One is like, oh shit, I'm on my own. And the other way I look at it is like, let's own this, right? Let's do this. Let's set an example. Let's be responsible for all this. And it's a lot easier for me to take responsibility than it is to make excuses, because
absolutely
taking responsibility means I got to make decisions. I gotta solve problems. I gotta work through things. I've got to, and look, when my friends have financial problems, I see it as mine as well. I don't say good luck, too bad. I'm like, okay, because I can't have an experience with my friend if he's having problems. Right. So
what kind of experience can you not have? What do you mean?
Well, they're struggling. I don't want to see them struggle, because their life is struggling and hard, making our relationship. I can't have a good relationship. It's hard to have a relationship when people are struggling, because you're always in their struggle. And so if you can help their struggle, and we all should be helping each other's struggles.
Okay. So can I interject?
Yeah.
So you got a buddy who's struggling financially. Now, I don't think the answer to that problem is for you to give him money, because it's like it's like the old, how do you teach a person to fish? You don't give him a fish, you teach him how to fish, right? So how can you best support your buddy? You're going to feel bad for him. I get that. He's struggling. So he's going to come into your exchanges with each other, and he's largely probably going to be perhaps sad or shameful or something, but how can you support that person?
Well, I look at it from my perspective is you include him you help him educate him. Like you're part of his growth. You become part of the growth. Okay. So you inspire the growth. So for example, you teach him about money. You teach him about investing. You help him You include him in the stuff that I work on. You show him a different side of it, and you just you help him with that experience. I agree. You don't just give people money, but you show them the side of it. Like, because here's the thing. I think that most of the stuff we have in our life, and your book reflects on this, most of our problems are because we have this belief system that is trapping us. And that belief system is, if you have problems with money, you got a belief system that money's hard to get.
Yep.
All right. So if you ran around every day saying, man, this stuff just flows in here, I can't even stop this money from coming in here. It's just, I don't know. Every time I come in here, there's more and more. If that's your mentality, you're gonna have a different experience.
That's right.
But and take another example, health. Like health, if your experience is I'm always unhealthy, you make unhealthy decisions. You're unhealthy because you've made unhealthy decisions. So for me to help a friend that's unhealthy, I want to help him make better decisions. I want to teach him what better decisions are. I want to coach him and help him in those ways. I can't grab the fork out of his hand, and I can't slap the food out of his hand when he's eating it because I'm not around him all day long. But I can lead him in directions. And plus, maybe it goes back to what we were talking earlier. I can set an example.
Right. But here's where I'm going to go with that. And I love how you feel drawn to help somebody and be a support. That's great. I'm going to come back to what I was saying about earlier about awareness. I think that I can best serve someone by starting by just being the best listener ever, ask them a lot of questions, and just to draw them out so they can kind of self-process. And to me, that's what awareness is really about, is becoming aware of things that were in our blind spot. So let's say I'm dealing with a friend who's separated from his wife, and now it's going to move to the legal and financial part. And so I call I call myself the terrier on your pant leg, and that is, do you have a lawyer yet? And so he keeps fighting it. He says, "Oh, I will. I'll make that call." And then I check with him a couple of days later, and I'll give him a thing like, one of my favorite Warren Zevon songs is "Lawyers, Guns, and Money." Do you get my drift? So I'm asking him questions by drawing him out. So he starts to become aware. Oh yeah, maybe the reason I'm in this predicament to start with is that I don't deal with conflict in a responsible way. And I agree with 1,000% on that, about the responsibility. And here's my definition of accountability, responsibility, is I'm 100% responsible for my actions and their consequences. I'm 100% responsible for my actions and their consequences. That doesn't mean I'm going to control everything in my life, but I think that if I take that view, I'm going to pilot my ship in a way that's going to be responsible. But again, I think that, so let's say your friend, he's not handling money very well, but he becomes then when he starts realizing what's going over, you could say, well, do you want some help here? Because I think I could help you with some, with how you're spending your money or something.
Yeah. I love that. I love what you just said there about being 100% responsible. I think that when I think about that, what it means for me is I don't necessarily think you can solve your friend's problems, but I think that me being successful as an example that can help is my responsibility in that situation. So
well said.
Yeah. So to me, I have control over myself. I have control over my behaviors and my actions and their consequences. So that I can control. And so, for example, it's probably the best way to say this is, if your friend's got a drinking problem, I'm not going to take him to a bar, right? So that's my responsibility. The last place I want to take my buddy who's got a drinking problem is, let's go have a drink. That would be irresponsible for me. That would not be supportive of a friend, right? Let's go to the ball game and watch the ball game or something somewhere other than a bar. So to me, that's the responsibility I have to supporting a friend that has a drinking problem. Not that I have any friends that have drinking problems, but I'm just using that as an example. If If I have a friend with money problems, I'm not saying, hey, let's go down to the casino and let's blow some cash. I'm not going to do that, right? That'd be irresponsible on my part. So I think that's my job, is to, as a friend, lead lead by example and be an example. That's my responsibility to my family, my friends, and everybody.
Here's where I'm going to go with that. So let's say you have a friend with you have a friend with a drinking problem. And let's say it's getting worse and worse. He's missing work. Maybe his wife's left him. He goes on these benders. What's going to be most effective for him turning it around? That you drive him to rehab, or he drives himself?
Right. You got to drive himself.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Again, it's starting with that. So this is where...
So you're not going to drive your friend over to the lawyers and say, get out, go talk to this guy.
He's got to make the call.
Yeah.
It's like in golf, in business, in your personal relationships, whatever it is that you come to grips. You are now aware of,
Tim, we used to have golf schools, and we did this thing years ago when we started our golf school programs. We had this deal where it was bring a friend, right? I don't know if it was a buy one, get one free or buy one, get one half, but it was like bring a friend. It took us about 2 golf schools of doing this. We're like, we'll never do this again.
That's right.
Ever.
Totally. Because what happened to the buddy who came?
Why am I here? What is this? Totally. They're changing my grip. I don't know what they're doing.
Totally.
I don't know what you're teaching me.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, this is the worst thing ever. It was horrible. Yeah. The only people that have success are the people that are bought in, right?
That's right.
They got to go all in,
Yeah. And that's the struggle. Again, we come back to that thing of like, most people don't want to change. They say they want to change, but they don't want to, because what happens is when you determine that you want to change, you're coming face to face with, you know what? Maybe I'm not as disciplined with money as I really need to be. Maybe I'm not stepping up to the plate and doing the things I say I'm going to do. And, that's, I coach people and companies in accountability. Am I 100% responsible all the time? F no, man. It's like, I struggle with this all the time. That's why I coach it.
Yeah.
It's because I've got experience with it, man. I've struggled with it my whole effing life.
When I saw that you had written a book, you know how I feel about books. We've talked about this before. I think people write books because they want to learn something.
Oh, 1,000%.
Because I know that, like, right now I'm working on a book as well. It's because I want to organize my thoughts around this thing and learn more about it. And I know that if I write the book, it'll help me with that. That's why I'm not using AI, because AI will not help me on this.
No, it won't.
I have to figure it out myself. So it's interesting because I know that one time I was at a conference, and I always sit up front at these conferences, and I knew the guy hosting the conference, so he had me sit at this front table, and I'm known as a successful golf instructor, obviously, and this guy walks up to me in the middle of the conference. This is during one of the breaks. He goes, Todd, I want to get into teaching golf here in Southern California. Can you tell me what you did to become so successful? And I remember telling him, I'm like, what do you teach? Like, what do you hang your hat on every day? Like, what is unique to your teaching as well? He didn't really have anything. I said, listen, the most important thing I ever did in my golf as a golf teacher was produce an instructional video, scripted out word by word, called The Single Plane Solution in 2010. And I wrote it in 2009. And we produced it in 2010. And it was scripted out. Every single word was scripted. I don't teach that way much anymore, but by scripting it out, I could have written a book from this video script, but that organized me around who I am, what I did, what I stood for, where my values were. It solved all my problems, because it wasn't me just standing out there going, well, put your hands there and put the club there and put your body there. It was like, this is why you do it. This is where you place it. Where exactly do you place it? It created this this framework and definition of exactly what I do. And that clarity was the key, because I got so crystal clear on it that I'm like, now that's exactly what I do. Right. That clarity was everything to me. I built a whole company with that clarity.
That's amazing. And so you can go a number of places with that. Well, that's the, for the overwhelming majority of people listening to this podcast aren't going to write a book, but they can journal.
Yeah.
And they can write down what's going on for themselves. And then they can, the nice thing about journaling is then you can go deeper into what you've written down. And see, our brain takes these things and makes them tangible. It organizes our thoughts in a progressive way. A plus B plus C, D, that's the way our brains work. So that's why journaling is really, really effective, because we plow deeper into what's going on for us. Now, I'll link that to coaching. See, what you were doing in many ways when you're writing that script, you were self-coaching yourself, because as you went through this script, I'm sure there was some areas that went, is that really true? What I'm saying, is that really true? Or what's the hole here that's not filled? Like, I jumped from this thought to this thought and there's something in the middle. Oh yeah, I need to add that in. Or, this just is vague or something. And so that's when we work with a coach or a third party, or even a trusted friend who we can tell, our important things to, we start to view things with what you said, more clarity, because we get stuff kind of outside of our noggins. You see, when most of us, neuroscientists don't know where thoughts come from, but they know that we have somewhere between, it's kind of a wild range of somewhere like 6,000 to 7,000 thoughts a day to like 70,000. And most of them the same damn thought you had the day before, and most of them are negative, and it's all the same bullshit over and over again. But once you start writing it down, it's like we get it outside of ourselves, and we can gain some distance and look somewhat objectively at what at the stuff that's ruling our lives. That's why in my book, this 7 transformational practices, a bunch of them start with writing things down.
Yeah.
Is that we gain clarity by looking at them.
Well, I know that people are going to want to get this book, and I know they're going to want to start writing things down. But we had talked about you supplementing this book with a journal, right? You're going to develop it. Yeah. Well, that's the second part of this, which you got to get that done, by the way, because I totally.
Thanks, Coach.
I agree. Yeah. Well, I'm going to be like what is it?
Terrier on my pant leg.
Terrier in your pant leg, chewing on your leg to get this thing done. I do agree with journaling, and matter of fact, I used to do it all the time. I used to write all the time. I need to start doing that. And would you recommend pen and paper or computer and keypad?
Well, it's different for everybody. I mean, old dogs like us, it'll be paper and pen. It really is. And I think that's actually the better way to do it, because it's a mind-body experience when you're writing things down. Typing is, if that's the way you roll, that's the way you roll. And for a lot of young people, that's the way they do it. But there's value in writing in general, whatever it is. But did I answer your question?
Yeah, no. I wrote some of these things down. One of the things, and I've got to wrap the podcast here, but one of the things that I want to do is, first of all, I can get your book on Amazon, right? So you can go to Amazon and get the book. I'm looking at it here. Matter of fact, on my other screen. They go to, I'm just going to look at the title on Amazon is, screen over here. Getting Unstuck, the 7 transformational practices for golf nerds.
Yeah.
I love the golf nerd thing. I'm such a golf nerd. Yeah, you can go right there. Tim O'Connor, so you can pick up the book. It's great. Also, is there places in the book where you can write in the book? I haven't been inside the book.
I didn't. You know what? What I would say to most people is, when you read a book, have a pen with you or a highlighter and make notes. That's the way we learn, is by you read something, you go, holy cow, underline it, make a note to yourself. It's your book. Do what the hell you want. Dog ear the page. I've got books that are just like full of stuff, and like there's little bits of paper hanging out of them and stuff, because I want to go back to that. That stuff resonated with me.
Right.
There's a skill to reading books and learning from them. And so, yeah, mark that sucker up.
Yeah. Yeah. I always write in books to highlight them and write through them and stuff all the time. So
Totally. Yeah. But that's why it's good to have a practice of journaling, is that, so part of my thing, I get up, part of my routine is, I can't, because I get up so damn early every day, I can't read at night because I just fall asleep. So I'll read for like a half hour to 45 minutes, and then I'll journal. And what that allows me to do is reflect on what I wrote and what's going on in my life. And it's amazing how these dots connect. And like, it's like why I was driven to read this in the first place. How does it connect with other stuff? And it really helps me with my learning. And I think that's the way the majority of people do learn.
Yeah. Yeah. I just took some notes here, and we'll close down with this, which is interesting because the thought process here today for me a lot was this idea of transformation, why we should transform. And here's what's interesting about when I was just thinking through some of the stuff you were saying. We can't evolve ourselves, into better, more valuable human beings if we don't have a value system. And then what happens to me, and I know this happened, is when I wrote that video in 2010, it created it made me aware of exactly where my values were, like the clarity of that. But then from that point, you think about 14 years later since that video came out, that has evolved. I was able to evolve that in multiple times over the 14 years to what it is today, which is an online training course that gets into the biophysics of the golf swing based on all the values from that 2010 video. If I would never have written that script and produced that video in 2010, I wouldn't be standing here today in 2014 with an iterated version that's much more powerful online that you can train. So my point is that you have to start with that clarity. And I think the journaling gets you that clarity. You got to get to that clarity. Where's your bullshit, right? Where is that bullshit? What's holding you back? And your book does that. It helps bring that out in you. What's holding you back so you can get unstuck? But when you get unstuck, where could you be 10 years from now if you got unstuck today, right?
That's right.
That's to me where I see this going, because it's like, oh, okay, I'm unstuck. But no, you're unstuck now. So
that's like calling yourself enlightened. Anyone who calls themselves enlightened is not enlightened. What are you going to do with it?
What are you going to do with it? Now that you're enlightened, what are you going to do? Right? I mean, but you're going to go in the world, and you're also going to be a better person for the world, and and everything around you is going to change because you got unstuck today. And I think that's what's so important about finding how to get unstuck and finding those things that are holding you back, because you can then take the new you and do things you couldn't do before and watch what happens. Just watch what happens. People around you. I have this motto for me now, and it's just I've stuck by this, and it's working for me so far. I don't know. I'll tell you in a year how it's going, but I will not be around people I don't want to be around. I just won't do it. I love that. I really won't do it. I literally I'll just walk away. I'm like Moe. I just walk away. You know
what? Here's where so you said something earlier that was really interesting. Is that so in certain environments, to play golf that you want to play, you can't be like overly social. I totally get that. So I guess what you'd be talking about, like if you want to play in a tournament or something, like so if I play in a tournament, the experience I want to have is that this is I love competition. I love to see how I show up, how I do under the pressure I'm putting on myself of how do I do in the tournament? And I want to play well. So I'm not going to be Mr. Social talking with everybody all the time. There will be times where we can talk about all kinds of stuff, but the experience I want to have is that I want to be my best self as a golfer that day. So I can't be distracted. So that's the experience I want to have. But on other days, when it's just a casual game, and I like to play well, but it's not about shooting as low as I can that day. If it happens, hey, that's great.
Yeah.
But I want to have an experience that I want to have. And that experience includes not being around people who annoy you, piss you off, whatever.
Oh. I was in Lake Tahoe, not last year, but the year before. And I went and played the course in Lake Tahoe. They play that charity event on. We went to play that. Forget the name of it now, but
is it a PGA Tour event?
No, they Steph Curry won it.
Oh yeah.
What's that course right on the Lake Tahoe? I forget the name of the course. Anyway, I went to play there literally days before they're playing that event. I went to Tracy out there. We're going to hop out there and play. And so listen, I literally booked the earliest tee time I could, so I wouldn't have to play with anybody. I'm like, "What's your earliest tee time?" They said like 6:00, like 6:10, and I'm like, "Great, put me at 6:10. We're gonna go play, and then by the time we'll have breakfast when we got done." Well, they put me with two people.
Yeah.
Right. And they both recognized me from YouTube.
Yeah.
And they're like, "You're Todd Graves from YouTube." And I'm like, shit.
Exactly.
I'm like, shit. I didn't want to play with it. I didn't. And it's not that they weren't great guys, because they were. It wasn't that I really just wasn't prepared. I want to go hang out with my wife. And I don't want to hit golf shots. I want to screw around on this course. I've never seen it before. I don't want to try to play good. I really don't want to. I just want to go hit a shot, watch my wife hit some shots, and go have breakfast. And now these guys are like, "Let's see the single plane swing. They're like," and I'm like, it's not the experience I wanted,
That's right. Well, I think it's really cool that people, again, about people being worried about being judged as weak or being judged as being a dick. Really?
Yeah.
So hopefully I can tell this really in a short amount of time. How when, say you've got a putt of about, say, 15 feet or so, and someone's inside you on close to the same line, and they stand behind you to look at the line.
Mm-hmm.
And like in old Tim would just like put up with it.
Now you're like, "Please move."
That's bothering me. Now I say, "Please move."
Yeah.
And because I realize that that it's a risk to say, "Steve, could you please move? Thanks a lot." He might think I'm a dick, but here's the thing. He might think, even though I'm trying to be my nicest person, that I'm a dick anyways.
Yeah. Yeah.
So to me, this comes down to having some boundaries, dude. Like I've got people in my life I won't talk politics with. I put up that boundary. And other people, like at the golf club that I play at, yeah, we'll play sometime, but then we don't. So that's the boundary I put up, because I don't want to play with them.
Yeah, I think it's good. I think sometimes just walking up. So I've been known to walk up to when it's kind of a social thing, but I don't feel like I want to play well. I'm like, "Hey guys, I may not say a lot today. It's just because I like to get in my own little world and play." I kind of let them off the hook early, let myself off the hook early in the conversation when I'm teeing off. That way I can, he's not being a dick. It's just he likes to be in his own little world, So yeah. I'll do some of that,
Well, here's the best boundary story I ever heard. And my women clients love this story. Years and years ago, my parents were playing at their club, and they could play with the pro. His name was Brian, and they're playing with his wife. Can't remember her name. And they're going to the first tee. And I'm going to use a crude word here, but they're getting ready. And the pro's wife says to him, "Hey, Brian, today's an NFL day." And he looks at her, and my mom, "NFL day? It's not Sunday or something, is it?" And he goes, "What do you mean? No fucking lessons."
There it is. I don't want any tips today.
That's right. She put up that boundary. And, when I tell that story to women golfers, they love it, because
everybody's always
so
trying to
often they got these damn husbands or boyfriends who are like 19 handicaps.
We don't want to see people struggle. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Giving them instruction. It's like, oh, leave them alone. Leave them. Let them have fun. God dang it.
Yeah. All right. Well, so Tim, where can is there a website for your book? Do you have a website for it?
You could go to o'connorgolf.ca and there's a landing page. You'll find it there.
Where can they get a hold
I
of
also,
you? If they wanted to get in touch with you and get some coaching and learn more about you, where would they go?
well, thank you. Just go to o'connorgolf.ca, and all my info's there. You can also check out my Substack. So you could just go to substack.com and look for Tim O'Connor. The URL is also toconnor@substack.com. I write each week. I write a blog or two, generally about golf, but life as well, and the type of things that concern me. And I do my own podcast, which you've been on, called Swing Thoughts, and we've been doing it for 9 years. And just I can't let this go. Is that over your left shoulder? I'm looking at a poster for a book that I wrote called "The Feeling of Greatness: The Moe Norman Story," and I'm really proud of that book. Todd, at least once every 2 weeks, I'll get an email from somebody that said, "I read the book, loved it, thank you," and so I'll throw it back at you. Thank you for keeping the legacy of Moe alive. He's been gone since 2004, and his memory is diminishing. But people like you keep Moe's legacy alive.
Yeah, well, the book it's an amazing book. It's obviously my favorite golf book for many reasons, but it's just a fabulous book, and it's and the documentary, that's taken shape. I know it's taken forever to get this done, but it's matter of fact, I've seen another rough cut this week.
Oh, far out.
Yeah, no, it's just these things. Just takes forever unless you got $1 zillion. You can just dump it in and go get it done. But what's funny is I don't think it would be the right. It's finding its way to evolve into the right story because it's taking so much time. So it's going to happen, and it's based on it's all based on your book and you're the ones that started keeping Moe's legacy alive by writing that book. I mean so thank you for doing that, and it is a fantastic book. So you can find any of Tim's books, but his new one or The Feeling of Greatness on Amazon as well. So Tim, thanks for joining me on the podcast. It was fabulous having you as always. Have a great Christmas. If I don't talk to you before Christmas.
Yeah, thanks, man. You too. To you and your family as well. Have a great one.
Great, and we'll see you down the fairway.
Well said.